Hey everyone, it's Colin Cummings. Today I'm going to tell you about how I became the air hockey world champion. Let's get started. So a long time ago, I started playing air hockey, probably around the age of like 5. I don't know, my dad took me to Chuck E. Cheese's, and that was probably where I was first introduced to the game. Eventually, I moved across the street from Brian Acrocco, who was at the time, I believe, number 4 in the world, and his son Steven Acrocco, who was like the best 12 and under kid in the time. So that was about 2009 in the summer, and instantly, as soon as I got there, Steven came over across the street and challenged me. He said, "Come to my garage and play me in this game." And I said, "Okay, sounds fun. I'll go play with you." So I went there, and he kicked my butt, and it was really bad. Like, I was not even close to being able to beat him. And he was, really proud and kind of arrogant. So I decided, you know what? I'm gonna beat this kid. So next thing you know, I'm going over to Steven's house almost every day. It was the birth of a wonderful friendship that lasted many years and is still ongoing today. But we played almost every day in his garage. And with another guy named Peyton Shelley, basically air hockey just became a huge part of my life. So moving forward, I eventually started getting into the competitive scene by going to a place called SRO, where I played in weekly tournaments almost every single week. And not only that, but my dad got in at the same time. So by that point, I'd really been playing almost every week, sometimes during the summer every day. And in 2010, during the summer, that was when I attended my first ever Air Hockey World Championship. So my first tournament ever in 2010, I actually played doubles in the amateur doubles tournament with my younger brother, Connor Cummings, who you can see right now. I'll show a little clip. And you can really start to see that after a year of being exposed to the sport, I had really started to develop a few key things, which was one, holding the mallet normally with 3 fingers. I had also started to do like a bit of drift. I was able to control the puck a little bit. And when I was younger, my favorite thing really was just to play fast. Like, I wanted to do the diamond drift all the time. I actually started with a low top. So if anybody's wondering if they should try a low top or not, I would definitely recommend trying it out for at least a little bit. But 2010 went by. I think I got to the 12 and under finals against Steven, and he beat me, if I remember correctly. Fun fact, I actually did not remember correctly, and Steven beat me in the 2009 youth finals, but I beat him in 2010. Another year has passed. We'll go to 2011, where I played yet again in the Air Hockey World Championships at SRO. Here, more footage was starting to be taken of me. I guess people thought I was starting to look pretty good for a 12-year-old. But I played doubles with my father, Michael Cummings, and we were doing okay. I think we went up against some players. I played a practice game against Dan Meyer that year, so you can see a little bit more about how I've developed. But this year was key, because this was the first year I played not in the 12 and under finals, but in the 18 and under youth tournament. And this is where a little bit of a rivalry began, as I made it all the way to the finals and played against Avery Yabernetsky, who was one of Jacob Wiseman's childhood friends, really good air hockey player, left-handed, by the way. So him and I ended up making it to the finals, and if you're watching the footage of me playing him, you maybe can see that I'm a little frustrated, right? So I'd played a lot in the main bracket, and I think I was the highest finishing youth, like 18 and under, in the main tournament. But we were playing the finals, just him and I. And he beat me. At the very end, he ended up taking the whole thing, and I remember that previous world champion, Jose Mora, was there, and he basically offered one of his championship trophies to the winner. So I was really like, man, I really wish I had beaten him. And then later, after he won, Avery ended up going on to Nickelodeon, and he got to see some people as he was playing on like a game show. And from that point on, I really decided, no more losing to lefties. So that was the beginning of a bit of an arc where I basically was like, I don't care if they're lefty or if they have a different mallet or something. I need to figure this out. I'm not gonna have any more excuses. So I think that helped the development of my game, is I need to learn how to adjust. So then the next year is 2012, and you can see I've grown yet again by a lot. played in the doubles tournament again with my dad, and we did a lot better. I think we went up against Danny potentially that year. But then another tournament happened this year called the Gold Grinder 500, where basically it was a handicap tournament where I think I was playing maybe as like a level 3, which, by the way, if you need to know more about handicaps in air hockey, it's basically how weekly tournaments are held sometimes in order to make it fair for master level players to play against beginners. So, for example, if a master who is level 6 goes up against a new beginner who's level 1 or level 2, they will give that beginner the point difference. So level 5 playing a level 1 will give that player 4 points, and that'll make it a lot more close in the weekly tournaments. So I was playing in this Gold Grinder, and I actually went up against some really great players. Billy Stubbs, who at the time I think came in 2nd. So you can really see how me at age, I think 13 at this point, was going up against these guys. And then I played in the youth tournament again, the 18 under. And this time I was determined, like I said. So I played Avery again, and I think I beat him pretty close to 4-1. I'm not entirely sure, but I beat him this time, so that felt good. During the same time, I had a challenge match with Jacob Wiseman. That began sort of a little bit of a rivalry. Basically, I beat him 4-0 in a challenge match, and yeah, that was the first thing that I can remember, the first of many challenge matches that we would eventually play. But you can really see that in the beginning, we kind of had a clash of styles. I wanted to be very creative, and he had a little bit more of a structure to his game. And that, I think, has carried on into our now strategies. But anyways, moving on. Another year had passed, and now I'm playing in the Houston City Open at SRO. You can already tell, again, that my game had grown a lot. And at this point, I think I was really a threat to some of the incoming or the previous masters. Fast forward, this is the first time that I traveled for air hockey, went to Chicago to play in the World Championship Tournament. In 2013, I went up against Billy Stubbs, who by that point, I believe was a 2-time world champion, and he kicked my butt. But it was really at this point that I remember Danny Hines was telling me, and Danny Hines was a 10-time world champion. I think in this year he became an 11-time world champion. He was telling me that he thought that I would be the next big champion coming up. So Danny Hines really poured into me. He gave me a lot of strategy. I learned a lot about defense from him at this time. And I think you can really start to tell that I had gained a pretty full grasp on just the air hockey strategy in general. I remember that I kind of hit a wall where I was able to beat level 5s and 6s at that point pretty consistently, but I really had no idea what to do against people like Billy Stubbs, Danny, or any of the previous world champions. All right, so now we are in 2014, and yet again, I've seen a large bit of growth, not only in my physical characteristics, but also in my game and my strategy. So at this point, I'm playing doubles with my good friend, Steven Okrako. We had played many doubles tournaments together at this point. But you can really start to tell that I have a lot more of a strategy when setting up shots. And my go-to was to play fast. Like, I always wanted to outspeed my opponents because I knew that I played almost every day. I think at this point, I definitely had my own table. I had gotten a Photon, and I'd been playing pretty much every day with my dad, and that really helped me to sharpen up my puck control. So playing against my dad, puck control and defense were the two things that really I got to a high level. But this tournament, I had 2 upsets pretty early on. I beat Keith Fletcher, who I practiced with a lot going up. He helped me out when I was younger, and he was always a player that I looked up to. And I beat Tim Wiseman, who was a 10-time world champion, which was really, really surprising at that point. So that, I think I really got a lot of people's attention. After that, I played Danny Hines and Davis Lee. Davis Lee came in 2nd that year, and he kicked my butt pretty hard. So again, you can see that wall that I had reached where I was able to compete with people who were level 5, level 6, the max level being level 7, but I really needed some extra edge in order to come out on top against people like Danny and Davis, which I ended up finding a year later. So that year, Billy Stubbs won pretty convincingly against Davis Lee to get, I believe, his 4th world title. All right, so fast forward a little bit farther. August was the Denver tournament that Billy Stubbs won. November, there was a Houston City Open that the current world champion Billy Stubbs traveled all the way down to Houston, Texas to play in. So this was my chance to really see if I could maybe break out and see how I could play against the current world champion. And I actually played decently well. I think he beat me 4 games to 1, but just that little bit showed me that I had a chance, basically, which was really good. But by that point, I had put myself in a place where I was consistently beating everybody else in Texas. I think that Danny Hines was the only one who really stood out and still could beat me, but everybody else, my practice partners, Brian Acrocco, my dad, they really had no chance against my speed anymore. And I was able to see them on defense just because we were practice partners. And when you're playing with somebody for a long time, you really start to figure out how to stop all of their shots. But fast forward to 2015, and we're playing in the first ever Air Hockey Players Association tournament, which was held in Colorado Springs at the Chapel Hills Mall. So the Air Hockey Players Association tournament was a little bit controversial, perhaps, because it was the first one ever. But many players traveled to come play in it, one of them being the current world champion, Billy Stubbs. In this tournament, I played against my dad, Brian Acrocco, Dan Meyer, and I believe a few others. But it was really crazy that Billy Stubbs actually lost early in the tournament to one of his practice partners, Brian Quezada. So I think at that point I might have been 4th seed or so. But I remember going in thinking, oh my gosh, Billy Stubbs, he's in a loser's bracket. Like, if I make it to the finals, like, I could really have a chance. So I played, I ended up winning against all the people that I had played previously, and I made it to the winner's bracket finals. And at that point, I was waiting for Billy Stubbs just to make it up to the finals against me. I was really, really nervous. I remember driving up that year to Colorado with my dad, with Brian, a few other people, and just thinking about the things that Danny Hines had told me, where maybe this could be the year. Maybe I could end up winning. I had practiced a lot. By that point, I had moved to Beaumont, Texas. We had our own table in our house, and every day I would just go and hit the puck against the table, practicing my puck control. At that point, I believe I was the fastest player, and I could do pretty much every shot almost instantaneously from my drift. But in the footage, you can see that I was playing fast. I didn't have very much of a accuracy type game, and really, Billy beat me pretty bad in the first set of the finals. So going into the final set of the tournament, I was kind of down. But I remember that everybody who was there with me encouraged me, and by the end of it, I was exhausted. But somehow, I was able to come out on top, and in that last shot, the right wall under, everything just came out and had one final victory jump in the air that you can see right here. So yeah, after I won, I remember just having this crazy feeling of imposter syndrome, because I didn't know that that would be the year, but having been able to beat the current champion and just really listening to my mentors, Danny Hines, I remember, called me right before the finals and just had me calm down, told me what I needed to do, which was just to play my game and be confident and really stop Billy's left wall unders and just acknowledge that he's a good player and that I would need to do something to be better. But all in all, I'd say the 3 most important things for me eventually becoming the world champion was, 1, to have fun practicing every day. Just getting onto the table, having somebody to practice with, somebody who would learn my offense, my dad, and my little brother at the time too, who's now getting a lot better. Them practicing against me made my offense have to improve. And it really didn't matter if we got on the table and just joked around or tried playing really hard, because we were just having fun. and that improved my puck control even if I didn't know it was. Like, it was a lot of unintentional growth. Number 2 was challenging myself to play people that were better than me. I remember playing a lot of challenge matches moving up against players that had beaten me a lot in the past, but having those milestones to try to overcome and achieve really showed that I was improving, and it almost set up puzzles for me to have to figure out as I was moving forward. The last thing that I would say helped me would be to implement other players' strategies. I really thought about how players from the past had their best things, and I tried to implement it into my own game. You can see that I kind of had a right wall undercut strategy going, and that was a decent bit of my offensive strategy, but I also had a really dedicated defense that I picked up from Danny, and I also tried to implement a bit of a Jose Mora style left wall under cross strategy. And later, I came up with some new things, and I tried to add in other players' strategies, and now my game is even different. And as the years went on, things changed, and I don't think that I play anything like the first Colin that won back in 2015. So maybe one day in the future I'll make a video about how my game eventually evolved over the years of the next tournaments that I would play in. But for now, I hope that gives you a good picture of just how I started from level 0 and made it to world champion. And I hope you can take this and just have fun playing in air hockey. Know that it is a journey and that it's something that you need to enjoy all the time while you're in it. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you all have a splendid and wonderful day. I'm gonna go and enjoy this beautiful Hawaii day. Play puck, everyone.